This was once the go-to style for big men who wanted to score with skill, strength, and just enough finesse to make defenders miserable. These players would post up, turn around, and do damage with footwork and force. Living in the paint and forcing double teams almost every possession. It wasn't just about scoring though. They created space for shooters, forced the defense to collapse, and set the tone. Physically, guys like Hakeem, Tim Duncan, and Kevin McHale turned post play into an art form. But now, it's more like a history lesson. The league's changed offenses today are all about space, pace, and points per possession. Post-ups are slow, less efficient, and kill ball movement. Coaches want shooters stretching the floor and slashers hitting the rim, not someone backing down for 10 seconds. And those rule changes, yeah, they didn't help the defensive 3-second rule and the 5-second backdown rule. They both made it harder for these guys to just camp out and operate. Analytics sealed the deal. Teams saw the math threes and dunks make more sense, so development followed. Big men now trained to shoot, dribble, and defend all over the floor. Guys like Wembany are doing things that would have been unthinkable for most bigs 20 years ago, and the defense, it's quicker, more mobile, and always ready to trap the post. Sure, a few moves survive and mentors still pass it down, but the back to the basket role, it's faded into a smaller, situational piece of the modern game. Mid-range maestro. This was the signature style for players who turned the mid-range area into their personal scoring lab, between 8 and 24 feet from the basket. These guys made it look smooth with perfect footwork, crafty fakes, and expert timing. They weren't just scoring, they were dissecting defenses with precision. Players like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant basically turned the mid-range into an art exhibit. And Chris Paul, he built a whole career carving up defenses with elbow jumpers. Even now, guys like Kevin Durant and DeMar still thrive in that space. It's just a lot more rare. The game's changed, the numbers don't lie. Three-pointers and layups just give you more bang for your shot. A shooter hitting 35% from deep still puts up more points than someone shooting 45% from mid. That math's been brutal for the mid-ring. Coaches and front offices notice and steer players toward efficiency. Stretch the floor, attack the rim, launch threes. The numbers shifted hard. Back in the late 1990s, nearly 40% of all shot attempts were taken from Now it's dropped to around 13%. That's not just a trend, that's a transformation. And while players still take those shots in the clutch or when the defense closes, everything else, it's not the bread and butter anymore. Still, some players haven't abandoned it. DeMar lives in that space. Durant's almost unguardable from there. It's not fully extinct, it's more so evolved. The mid-range is now a specialized weapon. Not a universal language. The archetype might be fading, but in the right hands it still hits, like it always did. Non-shooting point guard. These guys used to run the show without needing to be a scoring threat. From deep, they weren't knocking down threes or pulling up from mid-range. They were setting the table, locking down opposing guards, and steering the entire offense with pure basketball IQ. Rajon Rondo was the poster child for this role. Slicing through defenses and delivering ridiculous passes without even pretending to be a shooter. Jason Kidd in his early days did the same thing. Pure playmaker, elite defender, and absolutely allergic to the three-point line. Until he became a shooter, but the league doesn't run like that anymore. Spacing is king now, and if you can't shoot, defenses stop respecting. They sag, clog the lane, and ruin your whole offensive rhythm. Teams want 5 players who can spread the floor, not one who lets defenders chill in the paint. So the non-shooting point guard got squeezed out. Analytics made it worse. Teams saw the numbers and realized that even an average three-point shooter provides way more value than a pass-first guard who can't score. And with positionless basketball on the rise, guards have to shoot just to stay on the floor. You can't be a liability anymore. Not when opposing defenses are this smart. Sure, the traits still matter. Great vision, lockdown defense, and veteran leadership are still useful. But if a guard can't shoot, his minutes are gonna vanish. A few players adjusted by adding a jumper to stay relevant. Others faded out. The archetype didn't just decline. It had to evolve or disappear. In today's NBA, being a playmaker isn't enough. You've got to be a threat from everywhere. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks anyway, Enforcer. These players weren't in the game to fill up a box score. They were there to hit hard, protect their stars, and make sure every opponent knew pain was just one screen away. They didn't shoot the lights out or glide to the rim. Their job set the tone. Charles Oakley, he did all the dirty work so Jordan could shine. The ultimate protector turned intimidation into a strategy. Morris Lucas, he didn't just shift the momentum of a final series. He grabbed it by the collar. But the league's different now. The rulebook got thicker and the fines got steeper. The NBA cracked down on hand-checking, on hard fouls, on the kind of stuff enforcers used to get away with. Nightly now, you toss an elbow and you're in the locker room, watching the rest of the game on a tablet. Today's game values spacing, shooting, and versatility. You can't just be big and mean anymore. You've got to shoot, switch, and run an offense. Analytics backed it up if you're not efficient. You're not on the floor, and the league's brand. It wants highlight dunks and logo threes. Not bruises and blood still. The enforcer didn't totally vanish. He evolved. Draymond Green brings the attitude with a triple. Double skill set. Haslam barely played, but his presence alone kept everyone in check. Isaiah Stewart's got that old school vibe, but with enough modern game to stay relevant. The traditional enforcer might be history, but the mindset's not gone. It just had to learn how to pass, switch, and maybe hit a corner three if left alone. The role changed, but the edge, that's still around. Tall, slow small forward. These guys had the height of a power forward, but played out on the wing, bringing a unique blend of size, vision and touch. Turkoglu was the classic example. 6'10" smooth with the ball. Could hit threes and ran the offense like a point guard. Stojakovic wasn't just a shooter. He was a problem for any defender. Too small to contest his release. And Mike Dunleavy Jr., smart, steady, and always in the right spot, even if it took him a couple extra steps to get there. But today's NBA is way too fast for that mold. The game's up-tempo, transition heavy, and built on speed and quick switches. If you're not moving your feet fast enough, you're getting hunted on every pick and roll. And in switch-heavy defenses, there's no hiding these forwards. Just don't have the lateral quickness to guard guards, or the burst to blow by wings. Positionless basketball didn't do them any favors. Either teams now want everyone to be able to defend 1 through 5, which means foot speed matters more than ever. Even with a high IQ and solid jumper, it's tough to justify a spot for someone who can't keep up physically. Still, the legacy is not totally gone. Stretch forwards are everywhere now. Guys who can shoot and space the floor while playing up a position, and the point forward role. It's evolved into something faster and flashier, with players like Luka blending skills with agility. The old school tall, slow, small forward might be extinct, but parts of the archetype live on. The NBA just demands more now. If you're that size, you better move. Shoot and switch, or you'll get left behind. Defense only. These were the guys who didn't care about scoring. They were on the court to shut people down. That was their job. No flash, no fancy handles, just grit, timing, and pure defense. Bruce Bowen wasn't crossing anyone over, but he was glued to the league's top scores. But that kind of player doesn't last long anymore. The game's all about spacing, shooting, and offense. If you're not a threat with the ball, you're a problem for your own team. Offenses sag off, clog the lanes, and collapse everything. When a guy can't hit an open shot, even elite defenders get benched. If they're invisible on offense, player developments change too. Now everyone's trained to do a bit of everything. No one wants a one-dimensional specialist. If you're not scoring, or at least drawing attention, it doesn't matter how many steals you rack up. And with the rule changes favoring offensive freedom, defense only, players have less room to operate the way they used to. So what happened? The archetype adapted. You've got 3-and-D guys now, strong defenders who can also knock down shots, bigs who anchored the defense but still score a pass out of the post, versatile wings who can guard anyone and still handle the ball. The pure defense-only role. It's basically extinct, but its spirit's alive in players who defend hard and still keep the spacing honest. Defense still matters. It just can't be the only thing you bring. Not anymore. Short point guard. These guys used to be the underdog heroes of the league, barely scraping 6 feet but full of speed and playmaking. Magic Muggsy was 5'3" and still ran an NBA offense for over a decade. Earl Boykins, at 5'5", would slip through defenses like a mosquito at a barbecue. Spud Webb didn't just play. He won a dunk contest at 5'7". Calvin Murphy put up nearly 18 points a game, and Isaiah Thomas had a season where he dropped almost 29 per night while leading the Celtics deep into the playoffs, but that role is nearly gone. In today's NBA, being short is a defensive liability. Offenses hunt mismatches, and if you're undersized, you're the mismatch switch. Heavy defenses and longer, more athletic wings make it nearly impossible for shorter guards to survive on that end, and on offense, if you can't shoot over a defender or finish through contact, you're not making the rotation. Spacing and shooting matter more than ever, and taller guards just do more. They defend, they rebound, they switch, they stretch the floor. The game's evolved athleticism is through the roof. Everyone's bigger, faster, and more versatile. A short guard has to be exceptional just to get noticed, and historic just to stick around. Still, the legacy, strong guys like Thomas and Bogues didn't just play. They inspired, they proved skill. Determination and heart could push past physical limits. That archetype might not be on every roster anymore, but its story's written all over basketball culture. You can't teach height, but you can sure respect hustle. Blocks only big man. These were the skyscrapers, camped in the paint, swatting shots into the fifth row, while barely touching the ball. On offense, Mark Eaton was the prototype. He didn't just block shots, He swallowed them whole. He averaged 3 and 2 blocks per game across his career and once posted over 5 blocks per night. For an entire season, Man Ball took it even further. He ended his career with more blocks than points. Which might sound like a joke if it weren't actually true. Then there's Greg O'Daytag. Never confused for a scorer, but you'd feel him at the rim. But that role doesn't really exist anymore. The NBA moved outside. Offenses run through spacing and perimeter movement. Now, instead of forcing teams to meet giants in the paint, they just shoot over or around them. If your big man can't move his feet, switch on to a shooter. He's a mismatch waiting to be exploited. The slow-footed rim protector just can't survive in today's tempo. Offensively, the demands got steeper. Bigs need to pass, shoot, or at least finish in traffic. You can't have a guy standing in the dunker spot who fumbles every pass or bricks free throws. If you're not contributing at both ends, you're giving minutes away. Still, shot blocking hasn't died. It's just transformed. Guys like Rudy Gobert still dominate the paint, but they also anchor modern schemes and contribute more. Across the board, rim protection matters, but it's one piece of a bigger puzzle. Now, the one-dimensional SWAT specialist, that era is gone. The league wants more. Defense is still essential, but if all you bring is blocks, you're probably watching from the bench. Floor spacer only. These were the guys who lived on the perimeter and made defenses pay for blinking. No handles, no drives. No playmaking, just pure catch and shoot weaponry. Steve Novak barely moved, but when he did, it was to drift into the corner and bury a three. James Jones practically had a reserved spot on the arc, riding shotgun during championship runs. Just for his shooting gravity, Anthony Morrow could heat up in seconds, and Matt Bonner stretched the floor from the 5 spot, even if he grabbed rebounds like they were optional. Quentin Richardson had more range than range of motion, but the league caught up. Now just being a shooter isn't enough. Teams need guys who can stay on the floor when shots aren't falling. If you're not defending handling the ball, or doing something besides waiting for a kickout, you're getting hunted in the playoffs. Those liabilities get torched. Offenses evolve too. Ball movement, pace, drive and kick action. It all needs more than a one-note shooter. Guys have to put the ball on the floor, make reads, finish at the rim. If all you do is shoot, you're just standing in the way. When the offense breaks down, so what happened? The role didn't vanish. It transformed now. You've got 3-and-D, guys who hit threes and clamp up on defense. Stretch 4s and 5s, can shoot and still protect the paint. Role players aren't just shooters. They're hybrid tools, not single-purpose gadgets. The old floor spacer, only that's a relic. The game's too fast and too fluid for statues with good form. You've got to shoot and do something else, or get replaced by someone who can Shaq stopper. These guys weren't out there to get buckets. They were on the floor to ruin someone else's night. This doesn't mean they're only there to stop Shaq. This is a guy who was on a team to guard one guy. Specifically, their entire role was to shut down a superstar, or at least make them sweat. Shane Bott practically had scouting reports memorized like a pop quiz. He didn't just play defense. He calculated. Tony Allen didn't care if he scored 2 points, as long as his matchup didn't score 20. Kobe even said Allen was the best defender he ever faced. Gary Payton chased around Michael Jordan in the finals. There's a lot of examples, but here's the thing. This kind of role isn't what it used to be. The game's to spread out. Stars now have every skill in the book. Step fadeaways, pull-ups, floaters, and they don't just ISO anymore. Offenses constantly move, and team defense matters more than one-on-one glory. If you don't have help, even the best stoppers get cooked. On top of that, the rules have softened. Physicity's been trimmed down. Hand-checking's gone and guys get called for fouls just for breathing too hard. The old lock a guy up for 40 minutes job isn't viable anymore. Still, the concept's not dead. It's just evolved. Players who can switch, communicate, and clamp up in crunch time are still gold. The Shaq stopper might be rare now, but the mission neutralize the threat is alive and well, just less bruising. More brainy rebounding rim runner. These guys eat in the paint and sprint like track stars. For a living, they're not pulling up from 30 feet or running pick and pop sets. They're setting hard screens, diving to the rim and grabbing every loose rebound like it owes them money. Clint Capella's made a career off finishing lobs and cleaning the glass. DeAndre Jordan, in his prime, he was basically a trampoline with arms. JaVale McGee's bounce and shot blocking made him the ultimate energy guy. Dwight Howard's been a go-to roller in pick and rolls for years, but the game started asking for more floor spacings. Not a luxury anymore, it's a requirement. If your big man can't step out and hit at least a mid-range jumper, defender sag off. Paint gets clogged and ball movement dies. RIM runners who can't shoot get schemed out real fast. Defense is another hurdle. It's not enough to block shots. Bigs now have to switch onto guards, survive on the perimeter, and chase shooters. If you're just camping out in the paint, waiting to swat a floater, you're getting cooked by modern spacing. And don't forget the free throws. Many rim runners are bricklayers at the line, which makes them liabilities in crunch time. Coaches love the hustle, but they hate intentional fouls, turning into wasted possessions. Still, the role's not dead. It just has to evolve if a rim runner can. Add touch around the rim, improve lateral movement, or at least knock down some freebies. There's still value, but being tall, fast and dunk happy isn't enough anymore. You've got to round out your game, or get left behind in transition. Twin Towers. This was the blueprint for pure dominance in the paint. Two 7-footers patrolling the rim, crashing the boards and daring anyone to try a layup. Hakeem and Ralph Sampson kicked it off in Houston, combining size with skill and dragging the Rockets to the final. Tim Duncan and David Robinson turned it into a dynasty. In San Antonio, anchoring one of the most suffocating defenses the league's ever seen, POW and Andrew Bynum made it work in Los Angeles, stacking rings with size, touch, and interior force. But the league changed. It sped up. Shooters started pulling from everywhere, and suddenly having two giants parked near the basket became a problem, not a luxury. Paints got clogged, spacing vanished. Ball movement slowed to a crawl. Teams realized that when both bigs can't shoot, the offense becomes predictable and easy to bottle up. Defensively, it's even worse. These towers couldn't chase guards or switch on the perimeter without getting roasted. In today's league, if your big can't guard in space, he's sitting. The mismatch isn't just a possibility. It's the game plan still. The idea is not dead, it's just evolved. The Celtics run Al Horford and Kristaps together, because both can shoot the Bucks. Do it with Giannis and Brook Lopez. Size with spacing and defense. Minnesota paired Karl Anthony Towns with Rudy Gobert, using one as a stretch for and the other as a traditional anchor. The original Twin Towers model too. Nan shooting bigs clogging the paint. That's toast, but the concepts survive by adapting. Now, if you're going double big, one of them better shoot or switch or pass. Or do more than just stand tall. Big body. These were the bruising. Wide frames, low centers of gravity, and a whole lot of mass packed into 6'9" Glenn Big. Baby Davis didn't just have the nickname. He embodied the role through his weight around down low. Set monster screens and muscled out space for rebounds. Zach Randolph took it a step further, turning that size into buckets and boards. Night after night, Jared Sullinger, he carved out a niche as a solid post presence, who could hold his ground and clean the glass. But the game got quicker, slimmer, and stretchier. Now being heavy isn't a weapon. It's often a weakness. Offenses move faster, pull bigs out of the paint, and torch slow feet with pick-and-roll action. The big body gets exposed in transition, and when asked to switch on the perimeter, forget it. Spacing killed the old-school post-game too. Teams want shooters and not guys clogging up the lane with drop steps and baby hooks, and if you can't hit a jumper or run the floor, it's tough to stay on the court. The league just doesn't make space for big bodies. Without modern skills, conditioning didn't help either. Carrying that kind of size over an 82-game season isn't easy. Injuries, stamina issues, and durability concerns piled up. Coaches moved on, rosters evolved. Still, the big body blueprint hasn't vanished entirely. Some bigs still bring that presence in spurts, especially in playoff matchups that get physical. And veterans with that pedigree often pass down tricks of the trade, like how to seal off a defender without moving a muscle. But in today's NBA, size alone isn't enough. You've got to move, stretch the floor, and stay mobile, or the big body just becomes big baggage. Small ball 5, this is the lineup shift that broke traditional basketball in half. Instead of rolling out 7-foot rim protectors, teams started tossing in undersized, hyper-versatile players at center to maximize speed, shooting, and switchability. Draymond Green, at 6'6", basically turned this into a science experiment, with a few championship rings as the result. His ability to guard everyone, playmake, and stretch the floor without actually scoring much redefined what a big had to be. PJ Tucker took it to the extreme in Houston. At 6'5", he was bodying up 7-footers and then sprinting to the corner for a three. He wasn't blocking shots or dominating the glass, but his strength and discipline made it work, at least for a while. And then there's Bam. He's 6'9" but plays like a Swiss Army knife, guarding 1 through 5, handling the ball, and anchoring Miami's entire defense. This approach has trade-offs. Small ball 5s can stretch the floor and collapse mismatches, but they're often vulnerable on the boards. And in rim protection, teams that lean into this look need everyone to rebound, rotate, and hustle constantly. There's no room for passengers. The trend exploded during Golden State's title runs, but the league's starting to swing back, with dominant bigs like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, making traditional size relevant again. Small ball is more of a matchup tool than a go-to system. Coaches deploy it in spurts to speed up the game, create chaos, or pull shot blockers out of the paint. The small ball 5 didn't kill the big man. It just forced him to evolve. Now, if you're playing the 5, you better shoot, switch or facilitate, or get switched off the court. Shot chucker. This archetype lives for the green light. Even when it's clearly red, these players fire up shot after shot, undeterred by poor percentages or screaming teammates begging for the ball. Brandon Jennings built a career, launching off-balance threes, mid-range pull-ups, and contested floaters. Like every possession was a heat check. The volume impressive, the efficiency less so. Shot chucker are easy to spot. High usage, low true shooting, and assist numbers that look allergic to growth. They dominate the ball, ignore shot quality, and often treat offensive flow like a suggestion. Teammates might start open, but they'll finish the play watching from the corner. Ball movement dies when a chucker gets cooking, or thinks they are. It's not always malicious. Sometimes these players believe they're the offense. They'll pull up early in the clock, over-dribble into traffic, and launch because someone's got to shoot. Coaches walk a tightrope between letting them create and watching them derail the game. Fans either love the boldness or want them benched by halftime. The modern NBA doesn't have much patience for this anymore. Analytics expose low-efficiency scorers, and team systems prioritize ball movement and shot selection. Shot chuckers now have to evolve, cut down bad attempts, move the rock, and accept that smarter shots mean better results. Some adjust, others fade. The chuck it and hope approach isn't completely dead, but it's no longer celebrated. Today, players who can't combine volume with efficiency just get replaced. Because in a league obsessed with clean offense, shot chucking isn't bold, it's outdated. Undersized shooting guard. These players have no business guarding wings, no height advantage to lean on, and yet somehow they're a problem. Standing under 6'4", they get shrugged off by traditional standards, but not by defenders. Allen Iverson, at 6'0", was relentless, fearless, and faster than your remote's mute button. He didn't care if the guy guarding him had 6 inches on him, he just made him look slow. Eric Gordon carved out a decade-plus career, launching threes and slashing into traffic, like someone forgot to tell him he's short. But there are challenges baked into this archetype. Bigger guards shoot over them, post them up, or just throw a shoulder and dare them to flop. And on offense, these guys have to rely on skill over size, crafty finishes, deep range, or elite footwork. Finishing at the rim isn't about height. It's about knowing how not to get blocked. Into the fourth row, the league trends toward tall, versatile guards who can switch across positions. Undersized shooting guards, they've got to prove they can hang with that. They often shift into combo roles, handle the ball more, defend harder, and shoot smarter. The archetype isn't extinct. It's just smaller in number and bigger on impact. In today's NBA, there's still room for these guys, just not much margin for error. You can't fake it. If you're an undersized shooting guard, you've got to hit shots, fight on defense, and make plays, or you're getting replaced by someone 6'7" who can do half that. Welcome to the tall man's league. Try not to blink, set shot only. This archetype is basically a black and white film. In a world of high-def dunks, these players didn't jump. They planted their feet, squared up and let it fly like their knees. Had a no-lift policy, Dolph Shays made it work, launching high, arcing shots with a two-handed set motion. That baffled defenders in the 50s. Brian Winters didn't exactly leap into his jumpers either, but his form was clean, efficient, and deadly for his time. But now the set shots gone the way of short shorts and peach baskets. Modern defenses are longer, faster, and more aggressive. Try staying flat-footed against a 6'9" wing with a 7-foot wingspan, and see how far that shot gets. It's predictable, easy to contest, and vulnerable against any kind of pressure. The rise of the jump shot erased the need for it. Players like Hank Loizette brought the vertical element. That changed everything suddenly. The ball was releasing above the defender's reach, and movement became part of the shot itself. Add in today's pace and space game, where shooters have to launch off movement or pull up in transition, and the set shot starts looking like a liability, not a weapon. Still, traces remain. Free throws, basically glorified set shots. Bigs like Brook Lopez or Nikola Vucevic use modified set mechanics. From deep, no elevation, just balance and rhythm. Catch and shoot rolls sometimes involve barely leaving the ground, especially for bigger shooters looking for a quick, clean release. But the pure full-time set shooter that rolls extinct. The NBA evolved past it. If your feet aren't leaving the floor, now the only shot you're getting off is in warm-ups. Maybe if no one's guarding you. No vertical. These are the players who barely leave the ground and still manage to rise above everyone else. They're not throwing down windmills or chasing blocks into the bleachers. They're outsmarting, outpositioning, and outplaying opponents who can jump over traffic cones. This only works if you have the skill set of youth. Nikola Jokic basically plays the game like gravity is a suggestion. He politely declines. With a vertical reportedly under 20 inches, he still dominates every possession with touch, vision, and timing. Then there's Larry Bird. He jumped like he was wearing ankle weights, but somehow hit clutch shots, won 3 MVP, and made defenders look like they were thinking. In slow motion, Adrian Dantley He lived in the post, scoring buckets with his back to the hoop while being shorter and less bouncy than most guards. Today, these guys didn't need vertical. They had footwork, patience, and actual basketball skills. Imagine that, but the limitations are real. They're not swatting shots or sky for rebounds. They've got to rely on angles, boxing out, and sheer stubbornness at the rim. It's about touch and craft floaters, pump fakes, reverse layups. Anything to avoid getting sent into the third row. Even now there's room for this archetype. Jokic isn't just surviving, he's winning MVP while moving like someone's dad at a pickup game. Teams know there's value in high IQ, players who won't poster anyone, but will still control the pace and punish mistakes. Vertical leap might dominate highlights, but the no vertical guys, they dominate the game's details. They're proof that success isn't always about how high you jump, it's about how well you play. When your feet barely leave the floor, Charge 5. Quietly ranked near the top in charges during the 2014 season, but the Archetypes rare. The Charge 5 doesn't anchor a defense in the traditional sense, but they're a wall with a heartbeat. Not glamorous, not loud, just essential in the right moment when it counts most.